YouTube is right, Bubs. Look what we got here. Conscendo UMX. We're gonna try to slope soar today. I know this is not a perfect slope, but we have a shape here and there's wind blowing. And so we wanna see if we can make this happen. If you've ever slope soared, it is a really exciting experience where you're basically flying with the energy of the wind, keeping the plane aloft, which is really fun. Now, of course, this thing has a motor, and of course it is going to be very powerful, and so that's fine. So we'll keep it powered if we need to, but there's some wind right now. Let's see what we can do with it. So we're flying the plane just on wind. So the wind is the direction we're pointed at. And so what I'm gonna try to do, unfortunately I'm in the throttle again. So here we go, I'm out of the throttle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna see if I can carry enough with just the wind coming up this hill. Into the throttle again. So out of the throttle, and the wind picked up quite a bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let you guys know when I'm in throttle and when I'm not. And see, that's the beauty of flying in slope soaring, is that you do have to kind of figure out where you're gonna get lift from. And that's where it's nice to have a vario, even if you don't need it for thermaling. And again, I'm still out of throttle. What I wanna do is I wanna bring it in here and try to get, okay, a little bit of throttle, just a touch. And what's cool is when you get into a site where you can actually slope soar, you're gonna be flying for like hours without the aid of a battery to help you do things like that. But in our case, my whole plan in this video is to show you that you can slope soar a plane totally out of power. And there are a lot of people that do just that, just not me, evidently, today. And I think what's happened is that the direction of the wind changed slightly. And so when the wind has to blow through objects like trees, it will slow down the wind and it'll make it less laminar. And so of course that laminar wind is what's gonna help give you lift. So if I could, I just didn't wanna lose it there, guys. So there it is. So now I'm into the wind and I'm just trying to get myself oriented where I can pick up some lift. But I can tell too, I am definitely into the elevator hard. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just getting into a position where I can try to pick up right off of the top of this ridge, if you want to call it a ridge. And I just don't know if we're going to get enough, okay? So we'll just fly by the trees for a minute. The other thing you can do is you can dynamic soar, which is where you're going to take wind that is being kind of injected along a tree line. Ooh, here we go. We got a little bit of wind now. And the fun thing about doing all the slope soaring is that you can do it for literally hours and it is incredibly rewarding. But we're just not getting the lift I want. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna fly around. We're just gonna fly around like we stole it. And this is on 3S, 300 milliamp hour. And one of my favorite little ultra micros is right here. Now we set ours up with spoiler on so you could see it drop there. That is what happens when you use spoilers. It spoils the lift. And even this little thing screams, listen. That was just the servos. Love it. So if you guys have never experienced the Conscendo, I would highly recommend considering one. Ooh, there's some lift right there. And if you have the big brother, the 1.5, then you can experience a lot of the same features, only much larger and even more intense. And if you have a site where you can get a little bit of lift from some wind, now of course when you fly with the wind, you're not gonna get much lift off of it. But in the most intense slope soaring situations, I have been able to fly for like an hour and 10 minutes on a 1300 milliamp 3S. And that was on an older, admittedly an older Conscendo. So probably a little bit less capable. You see how much it's moving, guys? And that's one place where people might want to actually turn off AS3X. You can feel or see the change in position. Okay, so now we got lots of wind coming right at our face. And so what I want to do is I want to fly it and just show you guys. What's super fun is once you get into this perfect position, you can sit there and just stay right by yourself and watch that plane fly. And me and the camera crew have done it a couple of times. It usually works really good on dams. You can see I hit some there because it just lifted the plane up. But the problem is I'm not quite getting enough to keep up with the speed requirements of this plane. So if you're gonna do that on this plane, what you would wanna do is you'd wanna kind of work back and forth and just try to catch as much as possible. And you can always tell by the attitude of the plane. You wanna get that nose pointed down so you don't stall, and then harden in the throttle and just bail before you lose it, okay? And so what I was saying when I got interrupted by the wind, which is a good thing, is that if you ever have an opportunity to fly off of a dam, you see that I'm gaining quite a bit of altitude there for being such a small plane. If it was a big plane, that would have been a lot of altitude. But you see that? You just got to keep that nose down. And you see I'm carrying forward. So that tells you you're going to fail in a slope soar. Because what's going to happen is the slope soaring, you need to have enough wind to keep that plane set. And then you can stay in the lift. And so that's why it's so nice. See that? Now I'm losing. There it is. There it is. So there it is. See how I'm carrying forward? That becomes your problem, guys. Is because when you have enough airspeed that you're making penetration into the wind, then you have to change the direction you're flying to avoid trees and also keep the wind in lift. Keep your plane flying.
So the carrying forward is a sign that you aren't...
You're too fast.
Okay.
You're too fast for the slope. So what happens is, like on this plane, what you would probably do is, I think I set up a mix on C to make the spoilers go down. So now I should have flaperons. And see how much it slowed down, guys? Look at that. I'm just chilling there. But I'm losing altitude. So that's the other telltale sign that I don't have enough. So back out of the flaperons, back out of that setting. Now, if you guys don't know how to set up your plane to have flaperons, then you can follow along in our unbox build radio setup. I'm pretty sure I just deployed my flaperons. And now look at this, guys. Look how much slower it is. And what's gonna happen is you'll get lift way up above the hill sometimes. But then look at this. Now I'm out of that. And I can fly it around under power. It's no big deal. When you get far away from the obstruction, the hill, the dam, the berm, in the best conditions, you could slope right here in front of you and stay right here and watch everything happen. Ooh, you see like this? See what I'm doing? So you trade off airspeed for altitude. And in that case, since I failed, I just give it some throttle. So it's kind of a nice little game of cat and mouse today with some beautiful backdrop, I must say. So there it is, just going uphill. Ooh, watch the tree, Brian. So you see what's happening now? So now I'm carrying into the lift, in throttle hard. But it is one of the most rewarding, most amazing experiences. The wind is kind of a little bit cross to the hill. So what's gonna happen is instead of getting the lift that I would like to get, you're just getting a lot of turbulated wind. But you see, this is the direction that the wind's coming from. I'm flying into it. And so you see there's areas where you're gonna pick up that lift and it's gonna work really nice for you. But you can see the plane is fighting it. So harden the throttle, get some altitude, get back. And it's kind of chiming at me like, hey, I don't have enough juice for you to keep doing what you're doing. Well, that's okay. I can live with what I got. So there's my flaperons. If I remember right. Oh, I'm in spoilers. So we'll see if that helps. Okay, out of both. And guys, I'm barely giving any input and it just kind of does what it does. But what I can tell is this plane has too much penetration to slope at this wind speed. Unless I were to set up some more sophisticated flap mixes. And then that would help me. The other thing I could do is I could put in a lighter battery, which would make it more tail heavy. And then it would give me a little bit more elevator authority and a little bit less weight. But a lot of people want a nose heavy plane for a slope soaring plane. So now there's a hill down there by the pond. See if I catch anything. Okay, not much. And what's so nice about the telemetry on this is that you know exactly when you're gonna lose your power. And I'm getting tons of wind right now. This is what we were trying to hit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over the crest of the hill. There's gonna be a little bit of turbulence down at the backside of the hill. And if I can make it, check this out, guys. Look at this. That's what I'm talking about, is if that wind was kicking and it just kept going, you could sit here and just fly that thing right there and watch it work. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And by the way, if you guys didn't already know this, the Army Corps of Engineers controls the dams in a lot of the country. And so what happens is you end up having basically no drone zones, even the small ones like this. But like, little kiss of throttle. And you guys see what I'm talking about. Just like that's what it's like. I'm just gonna try to keep it airborne though, for the sake of the video. So we'll go around the tree line, bring it right back down, and just kind of carry into the wind. Always trading airspeed for the position, and a lot of rudder is really helpful when you're doing this. And I've got better slope soaring ships, as they call them, because really at the end of the day, what you want is you want a plane, this is at 3.4 volts per cell. That's where my warning is on the Smart ESC for this Conscendo Evo by default, or Conscendo UMX, not Conscendo Evo. My apologies, folks. But I just wanted to encourage you, if you've never tried it, it's really fun. And like during the fall, at least here in Iowa, we end up with a ton of wind. I mean, like wind, it kind of ruins your flying experience. So I just slipped and did all sorts of stuff to get that thing to stay put there. I'm trying to get into this lift because I've got good lift here now. So you guys see what I'm talking about? And all I'm doing is just flying the plane. And what happens is you end up having to learn to really be an efficient pilot when you slope soar, because you have to use up every last little bit of energy. And I'm doing a very bad example of it, to be honest. Hard on the throttle, just getting back into position. If you've never done it, you gotta get out there and try it, especially if it's fall in your area, like it is for us, of course. You're gonna find that during fall, it's a really good time, because what you can do is you can get along a hill, and it would be better if the hill was facing into an open, empty field, which a lot of times the fields are open and empty this time of year because the crops are out. If you're anywhere in the, central Midwest part of the country. But I'm gonna try to get some up here, see if we can get a little bit of ridge lift off of it. And we are feeling some lift, but we're just not quite getting that airspeed we need. And you gotta try to stay square to it.
Well, we just don't have a lot of hills around here. Like this is hilly for us. We have lots of wind, but
this is probably about 50 feet of hill. But I mean, we have areas where there's hills. And the place where we were doing our slope soaring video from a couple years ago, probably 5 years ago, was about 300 feet. It's a very big bluff and beautiful place. We kind of have a friend that had invited us to go fly that area, and that was me and my friend Esteban. We did that. It was super fun. So we went out there and took advantage of the opportunity. Of course, you have to hit it right when the wind is at its peak, or it's super lame, and then you're just out there flying like anything else. Now, I'm not saying that it's lame to fly anything else. I love flying, but what I'm gonna tell you is you don't get to sit there and do that for an hour and a half if the wind doesn't come to fruition. But what you do get is you get an absolutely gorgeous view of the Iowa backdrop, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it in and see if I can catch a little bit of lift, and maybe I'll get lucky and I can catch the thing, like physically catch it. So we'll see how much more of this I can get, and then we'll talk about how long of a flight time we got. I mean, it's not a tremendous one, but there comes some nice wind. That wind ought to pay some dividends for us. So you see, I'm kind of hitting a different angle because the wind is actually hitting from a different side now. And I hope that at some point we'll be able to dynamically soar these trees, which is part of the reason why they're there, guys. So all this stuff is all part of the big plan. And the big plan, of course, is to have a full-scale strip right behind where this plane is flying. You guys have already seen a plane land here if you're part of the channel or if you've been here for a while. And if you're not, welcome to Brian Phillips RC. We're here to help get you in the air and possibly, okay, so yeah, it's gonna go past. That's okay. That's okay. I wanna keep flying if I can. So you guys see what I'm talking about? Like that's 30, 40 feet in the air now. But I'm just losing the lift right at the worst time. So if you guys get the right plane that you can slow down even better than this, because remember, you got to stay in the lift. That's the hard part. Oh, come on. No. I was trying to catch it. Missed my opportunity again. We're going to get it though, guys. Make no mistake. Slope soaring is a patient person's game. More so than, you know, maybe thermaling. I don't do a lot of thermaling, and I certainly don't film it when I do it because it's just not very fun to watch. It's cool to see, and I'm not saying there's no value in it. It's just that it doesn't film very well.
No.
Because it makes a long Brian Phillips RC video even longer. And I'm sorry, I know you're trying to hit this shot, camera crew, but
stay out of your way.
Yep, every time I go, I just keep getting lift, which is what I was doing. That's the whole point of being here. But you see, I keep flying through it.
Yep.
And that's why if you have a plane that has just like a very basic inboard flap, and you've got something that you can slow down, the Conscendo is just so eager. And so what happens is you end up getting into the throttle to get yourself into position, and then you get stuck. Now I'm slipping. Let's see if I can get this. Nope, still not gonna get it. But guys, I love being able to fly for so long on one battery. And what you guys don't realize is you could easily slope soar this long and you wouldn't even touch your battery's capacity. I'm cutting in front of you probably one more time. We'll see if we can get it this time. But you guys see the windsock out there.
Yep.
It's kicking. But you're gonna have, now you can land back there, no problem, but I would really like it if I could catch the thing. But you see, I must have picked the perfect spot for lift.
Maybe we should go up. Do you want to go up?
Yeah, let's go up and see if we can catch it. I mean, I'm just gonna say, if I can get lift, I'm just gonna keep flying it. Because if you never know exactly where the lift is gonna get.
Yep.
But if I'm getting lift, I'm getting lift. So I don't have any problem with getting lift as long as I'm getting it, right?
Right.
So there it is. But you just don't want to get to the point where you don't have enough to get out of a hole.
Yep, exactly.
Which, yes, I have done that too. And by the way, once you're back here, you're just in turbulence, okay?
Right.
The turbulence will not produce lift. It'll produce lots of AS3X activity. So now I'm giving a little bit of throttle just to get it to me. Just little pulses. Oh no, it was right here, dang it.
That was your best one yet.
I know, it was so close. But I'm just trying to pick up ridge lift off at any angle that's gonna give it to me. But if you ever watch the natural glide slope of this Conscendo UMX, it is definitely a pretty eager glide slope. So, you know, if you're expecting to slope with this, if I were on a large scale dam, like a community dam, woo, dang it, I almost had it. I couldn't wrap my fingers around it in time. Then it would be no problem to fly this thing. And incidentally, I have sloped the Conscendo, the big Conscendo, and then I did the ASW, didn't I?
Yes.
It was the AS, or AS, it's not the ASW, it's like an ASK21. It's a discontinued unit now, but I believe I sloped it. It was designed as you'd pull it up and you would release it. It had a release hook and no motor. I took mine and put a motor in it, and it worked really nice. But I'm telling you, what happens is you get these circumstances where you can see the wind coming up the hill, and it just screams like slope soar, like this. Watch. It's just crazy, guys. It's hard to explain to somebody. And see, with this 300 milliamp hour battery, I just almost wonder if it's just a little bit too much, or if I need to slide it back just a hair, because that might help me slow down the plane a little bit. Let's try. I'm out of the throttle cut now, if I need it. But you guys see what I'm talking about? Like, it just penetrates a little bit too good. And when you have too good a penetration with an airplane that you're trying to slope with, then what happens is you just fly. And I'm trying to slope. And in order to slope this plane, I need to create more lift and more drag. So an inboard flap would do that for me on this plane. And guess what? The Conscendo that I was sloping had inboard flaps because I added them. Now you see what I'm waving my wings. Now I'm trading off airspeed for altitude. And as you can see, that's what I'm talking about. You'll fly it right there and you will watch that thing fly for hours, and it is something else. And if you have an appreciation for aviation, you will be able to do that for just ever and really enjoy it. So guys, I can't encourage you enough. If you've never tried slope soaring, and I'm showing kind of an epic fail to be frank, you gotta get out, you gotta try it. And if you want a plane that's gonna work well for it, I would suggest either this or, on this conditions, the Radian might not be a bad option. The Radian UMX would be another good one. That is still available, I'm sure. The only thing about the Radian is it's so small, it's a 3-channel. And this is such a capable plane. And what happens is there is a definite gap between capability and wind. Because you guys see, you have to fly with a certain level of efficiency, and I'm getting kicked around like crazy. There's some throttle. Normally, I would be able to go down there and regain all the altitude that I spent, and you would just use almost nothing.
Is it better to slope a bigger plane?
Yes. Yes, because things don't scale down exactly. A smaller plane will technically slope easier if the wind is high because you've got a smaller volume. But what I'm saying is the lift, it just depends on the wing loading. And I think the wing loading on this is probably pretty high. And I used a little kiss of throttle at the end of that. But yeah, I mean, we could try a bigger plane and just see how it works. Why don't we do that next? I'm gonna take this down and we'll show you what kind of battery we've got left. And then what we'll do is, I don't know if we'll take the big Conscendo up or if we'll take something similar. What do you think, camera crew?
We'll have to see what's available and ready to go.
You guys see I'm using my rudder to help slow me down. Now, spoilers. Oh, flaperons actually, my apologies. There's my flaperons. I don't know if you guys can see what happened when I deployed the flaperons. That's the landing flaperons. There's my takeoff flaperons, they're barely noticeable. Okay, so I'm gonna go into my takeoff flaperons, which is just one step. Wanna see what happens? What the heck is that?
That bird
Squirrel?
is very...
Squirrel bird?
I don't know.
Okay, so there we are. Now we're into our full landing flaperons. And so guys, the proof is in the pudding. If this thing were flying for hours on one battery, it would be pretty obvious because you will have seen it. That bird is so weird.
Very concerned about you.
I think that's what's going on. I bet that bird thinks I'm going after its eggs or something, but why would it have eggs? It's like fall. Maybe they had a poorly timed mating season. Okay, into the takeoff flaps. Oh man. Oh, do you see how much I lost there? Mm-hmm. Now I got to get that nose forward. Okay, into the throttle, just a hair. Look at the penetration though. Okay, full, oh, out of it, out of it, out of it, out of it. Oh, I was trying to save it, and I almost did. Now, the other thing is the throttle can be used to brake the plane too, as in slow it down, not break it in half, Brian. And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy having a powered system, even though you don't technically need it.
Now we have to do it again.
I was so close. But as you can see, guys, it's just a blast to do. And I don't know if you can tell from me holding this, it's trying to rip it out of my hand.
Yeah.
And here, I'll show you the camera crew's hair. Hold still. See the camera crew's hair? It's blowing in the wind. You see the alfalfa blowing in the wind. That's what I'm talking about. You get out here, you just experiment and try new things. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. Here's our takeoff flaperons. Here's our landing flaperons, okay? So when I flip this C switch, I have them going up. So that's our spoilers, okay? So one more quick time, just take off flaperons. We'll just see if we can just toss it. Come on, give me the lift. I had my throttle cut on. Oh. I had forgotten at first. And by the way, those aggressive turns, they lose tons of power, or tons of lift rather. Okay, full landing flaps now. Take off flaps. A little bit of throttle, and then right to me. It's just so much fun, guys. You gotta try it. Even if you fail, it's gonna be worth your time, I promise. We've talked about this before, and every time I think I'm about to quit, I look out there and I see the wind blowing straight at me, and it just makes me wanna do this. Because I know what's gonna happen is I'm gonna eventually get the wind. And see, that's the first time I put down in the grass because I didn't get to my throttle in time. Let's try right here instead, okay? One more time and we'll see what happens. Okay, we have flaperons deployed right here. Okay, there it is. Come on, give it to me. No, it's not giving it to me. It's so annoying. Gravity is just like, screw you, Brian. You don't get to slope soar today. And the wind. But that wind is plenty strong. It seems like it should be plenty.
It does.
Okay. Okay, full landing flaps. And actually, let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can get it. Almost. And if you guys don't know what those stakes are, they are marking little baby trees and potential tree locations. So I know a lot of you guys in the RC world are like, cut those trees down. We don't cut trees down here. We love trees. Out of the flaps, a little bit of kiss of throttle. Kiss the throttle, kiss the throttle, full flaps, and then throttle cut. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I think it warrants trying a bigger plane just to see if we got enough lift here. I'm kind of guessing we don't. But if you've never tried it, you gotta try it. It is so much fun. The Conscendo is a great plane, okay? If you've never had a Conscendo, amazing plane. You don't need wind to enjoy it, but you will enjoy it if you can find a place to slope. So I just want to talk about this spot here. Shine the camera in all directions so that they can see the way that the slope is. Okay, this slope is gradual and it's pretty big, but over there is this confluence. It's gonna pull it all to the center. The reason we're not standing there is because that alfalfa sucks to stand in. But it might be a better place to catch the wind. The wind happens to be blowing like this, okay? So that confluence isn't working. If the wind were off another 15 degrees, I think it'd be maximizing all the wind right there. But we have one tree line, two tree lines, one house, and all the stuff in between that slows down the wind and turbulates it. That's why coming straight off of a body of water is ideal for slope soaring. You will get tons of lift into the dam. And you can quite literally launch and ride that wind back and forth and back and forth. And the other thing you can do that's kind of fun is if you have a plane like this, you don't want to spend the time to insert actual functional flaps, you can cut this with an X-Acto knife and set that with tape. And then you can put it back when you're done slope soaring. So that will cut in a fixed flap which you can trim to correct with your trim on your elevator, and then you can do slope soaring that way too. But in my case, I just have the flaperons, and flaperons, an outboard flaperon is never gonna be as efficient as what you're gonna get on an inboard flap, okay? So I think we're gonna go ahead and reset. We'll grab a different plane and try it just a little bit longer.
That was about 27 minutes.
Oh,
just
okay.
Because we said we'd talk about timing.
Okay, so we'll talk about timing. And if we come back, we come back. If not, guys, if you want to support Brian Phillips RC and all the stuff we do RC, and if you want to get one of these Conscendos, whether it's a big one or a small one, you can get it from the links in the video description below. It'll be linked to this plane. We'll link to the battery that we happen to choose, which is a 3S 300 milliamp hour. And this is the kind that's got the JST connector, okay? Yes. So it's gonna give you a little bit better run times, a little bit more power on demand, and you do need it on this little one. You can fly on 2S, but my suggestion is stick with the 3S. And also, I gotta say, I love the big Conscendo and I love the small Conscendo, but there are slower sailplanes that will do this better, and we'll try to showcase those for you here on Brian Phillips RC. If you want other ways to support us, look no further than Patreon, PayPal, YouTube Super Thanks, and YouTube members, all of which are always invited and welcome here on Brian Phillips RC. But the best way is buy awesome aircraft, whether it's a helicopter, an airplane, or just something that we weren't even doing today, from the supplies tab, or something you found at bprc.me. That's our website and domain. It'll help you sort and do side-by-side comparisons from the thousands of videos that we have live right now on YouTube. So thanks for watching and stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips RC right around the corner.